Thank you very much, Minister. The second question is in the name of Deputy Pat Casey, and it's to ask the Minister for Transport, Tourism and Sport about the adoption of the transport strategy for the Greater Dublin Area 2016 to 2035. Deputy Casey.
Thank you, Carlow. Firstly, can I take this opportunity to congratulate the Minister on his appointment. Indeed, it's great to have two residents of County Wicklow at the Cabinet table. And equally today, can I extend my congratulations to Deputy Andrew Doyle in his appointment as Junior Minister, so surely we won't have any problems in Wicklow from here on in. And indeed, I have memories of you, Minister, attending Fine Gael meetings in my own hotel in Glendalough when you were the chosen one for Fine Gael at that time in Wicklow. It's nice to see once again that you've become the anointed one. Minister, you will, though, appreciate my concerns and worries here today, as indeed in your time as a public representative in Wicklow, transport infrastructure were live issues then, and you will be able to directly relate to this crucial element of Wicklow's development. My first concern is simple. Who writes the rules of the games now? Heretofore it was said that the Transport Authority delivers transport infrastructure for an area that has been planned via regional and county planning and considering national spatial factors and other factors, and then the Transport Authority came in and delivered the transport infrastructure. It is strongly evident from reading the strategy that the National Transport Authority believes that they are now setting the rules in relation to spatial planning for regional and county planning. This is a game changer and destroys the ability of counties and regional authorities to develop in a planned and strategic manner. You have a track record in tackling unaccountable institutions. I hope that you will continue in that vein now that you have the power of a Cabinet position. I know, Minister, that you have referred to the staff in government departments as mandarins. Let me assure you of my interaction with the NTA and the NRA. They are no longer mandarins. They actually think they are gods. This document clearly does not serve the requirements. Minister. This document clearly does not serve the requirements for the development of the Greater Dublin area, and in fact is more suitable as a Dublin metropolitan strategy. Your own programme for government, just published, commits to rural development and urban regeneration. In Wicklow, we need to fulfil both of these needs, and this National Transport Plan destroys the ability to do so. Wicklow, as you are aware, has always suffered due to its proximity to Dublin, and this has become more evident now as we continue to pile 22,000 people, or 42% of the workforce, onto the N11 and N81 daily, causing major traffic implications. Wicklow needs to achieve a self-sustaining jobs ratio of 65 to 70% of its working population. This ambition feeds the objectives in the draft Wicklow County Development Plan, which is consistent with regional planning guidelines, which is backed by the local economic and community plan, and is supported by the Regional Action Plan for Jobs. And again, equally, your government sets a target of 135,000 jobs outside of Dublin by 2020. The sole purpose is to address the issue of self-sustaining job ratios. But NTA have absolutely no regard to this objective and wish to escalate the problem more by continuing to drive economic growth into the Dublin metropolitan area at the expense of Wicklow, Kildare and Meath. The NTA states that lands that are not approximate to the existing committed public transport infrastructure, that no significant development should happen on those sites, and the distance mentioned is 2 kilometres. I asked the Minister, and he knows the geography of Wicklow very well, the implications this will have on economic development. All of Wicklow's train stations are located on the coast, with the exception of Rathdrum. There is nothing within a 2-kilometre radius of Bray available without developing the Fassaro site. This flawed strategy has dropped the proposed Lewis line that was to serve it. Greystones, Wicklow and Arklow will all be lost out equally because of the lack of available land. And as for West Wicklow, there is not even a mention of it in the strategy. Completely forgotten. And I want to give the Minister one other example. The film industry was identified as a unique industry to Wicklow, where Wicklow plays a strong role nationally and has 2 major studios in both Bray and Ashford. After significant evidence-based research and analysis, the future needs of this industry were identified in the appropriate zoning adjoining the current studio in Ashford is proposed in the current draft county development.
Thank you very much, Deputy.
This is an example of evidence-based strategic planning that benefits everybody.
I have to ask you to conclude.
Who doesn't want it to happen? The NTA is determined to demolish this plan. Why? To protect the carrying capacity of the N11.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy. No, I'm sorry. I have to be fair to everyone. Minister, to respond. You have 5 minutes, Minister.
Thank you, Cole. And I'd like to, first of all, thank the Deputy for his kind remarks of congratulations. I'm not quite as grateful to him for reminding me of my past, which I've been trying to hide in recent days for a very long time. And I suspect the Fine Gael party regard it as a chapter in their past of which they're not particularly proud as well. But today we are where we are, and we're happy where we are. I also, yes, he's absolutely right. I find a great deal of sympathy with what he says because I'm a native of Wicklow and my mother still lives there and I live there. Many of my relations still live there, and I will address this in a different manner in the future, and I will look at it as a native, of course, who is very familiar with the problems that he's discussing because of my associations there. But today I want to say, first of all, that the critical eye with which I've looked upon the agencies to which he's referring remains. But I'm certainly not going to say anything which would be rash or foolish in these early days in office, and I'm simply reading myself into agencies like the NTA and others and what they do, what they say, and I will be meeting them in the very near future. In fact, I think in the next 10 days I'll be meeting them. One of the key functions of the National Transport Authority under Section 11 of the DTA Act 2008 is to undertake strategic planning of transport. In carrying out this function, the transport strategy for the Greater Dublin area 2016-2035 was prepared by the NTA in accordance with the relevant legislative provisions, primarily Section 12 of the Dublin Transport Authority Act 2008. The NTA did consult widely in preparing the transport strategy, as well as consulting with all local authorities during the preparation of the transport strategy. The process also included 2 public consultation phases, one at the commencement of the preparatory work and a second consultation in relation to the details of the draft transport strategy. The purpose of the strategy is to provide a framework for the planning and delivery of transport infrastructure and services in the Greater Dublin area over the next 2 decades. The Greater Dublin area covers the 4 Dublin administrative areas as well as Kildare, Meath and Wicklow. In preparing this strategy, the NTA is required to have regard to a number of matters, including such items as the National Spatial Strategy, demographic and transport trends across the Greater Dublin area, the National Plan for Capital Investment, currently Infrastructure and Capital Investment 2016 to 2021, local authorities' development plans and the regional planning guidelines for the region prior to their replacement with the Regional Spatial and Economic Strategy. Of particular significance are the regional planning guidelines for the region. It is a specific requirement of the legislation that the NTA ensures that the transport strategy is consistent with the regional planning guidelines and subsequently with their replacement, the Regional Spatial and Economic Strategy. The NTA does not have statutory responsibility for land use planning in the region. This is the role of the local authorities, the regional assemblies and also the Department of Housing, Planning and Local Government at a national policy level. This is fully recognised and stated in the transport strategy, which also states that the role of the strategy is to establish the framework for transport provision necessary to achieve the land use vision set out in the regional planning guidelines. As required under the legislation, the NTA liaised with the Eastern and Midland Regional Assembly during the preparation of the transport strategy. Following consideration of the draft transport strategy by the Regional Assembly, it provided confirmation that the draft transport strategy was consistent with the regional planning guidelines for the Greater Dublin area. many of the existing planning and transport problems across the Greater Dublin area, which have resulted in unsustainable patterns of commuting and increasing congestion, stem from a lack of integration between planning and land use. It is important that a much more integrated approach is developed between these two areas, both now and into the future. Existing legislation seeks to achieve this by requiring, on a statutory basis, consistency between strategic transport planning in the form of the transport strategy and regional level land use planning, currently in the form of the regional planning guidelines, which will be replaced by a regional, spatial and economic strategy.
Thank you very much, Minister. The time has elapsed and the balance